The Millionaire Mind, by Thomas J. Stanley, Ph.D. Introduction. I want you to imagine a scene. It's the early 1980s. A man named Gene, who owns a salvage business, is sitting across a large mahogany desk from a senior credit officer at a major financial institution. Gene has just closed a massive deal, buying up dozens of homes, a shopping center, and several apartment complexes, all properties with loans in default. After the papers are signed, the officer, a man accustomed to power, signals for Gene to follow him. He walks over to the giant window in his top-floor office. From there, they can see for miles. Thousands upon thousands of buildings, offices, shops, homes, stretch out to the horizon. The officer gestures grandly at the sprawling city below and says something that will stick with Gene for the rest of his life. He points to all the buildings and says, "We, the lenders, we own it all. All of it. The businesses out there, you borrowers just run these businesses for us. You guys run them. For us." Think about that for a second. How many people in this world believe they own their business, or their home, or their car, but in reality, they're just managing it for a bank? They work tirelessly, day in and day out, to make payments to the true owner, the lender. But Gene wasn't one of them. The millionaires he knew weren't either. They understood a secret that most people never learn. They possessed what drive? Thomas J. Stanley, after decades of groundbreaking research, would come to call the millionaire mind. For years, drive. Stanley dedicated his life to a single, fascinating question. Who are the real millionaires in America? Not the celebrities or the lottery winners, but the men and women who build lasting wealth, often in a single generation. His first book, The Millionaire Next Door, shocked the world by revealing that most millionaires live surprisingly modest lives. They don't drive flashy cars or live in McMansions. But that discovery led to an even deeper question. It's one thing to know what millionaires do. They save, they invest, they live below their means. But it's another thing entirely to understand how they think. What goes on inside their minds that allows them to see opportunities others miss, to take risks others fear, and to build not just wealth, but a balanced and fulfilling life? To answer that drive, Stanley embarked on his most ambitious study ever, surveying over 700 millionaires, digging deep into their beliefs, their habits, their fears, and their triumphs. The result was his masterwork, The Millionaire Mind. And what I can promise you is that by the end of our time together today, you will have a map to that mind. You'll understand that becoming a millionaire has almost nothing to do with being the smartest person in the room, or getting into the best college, or being born lucky. It has everything to do with cultivating a specific set of virtues and a unique way of looking at the world. It's a mindset that allows ordinary people to achieve extraordinary results, and it's a mindset that is available to anyone willing to learn. Book summary. Let's start by tearing down a myth. It's a myth so powerful, so deeply ingrained in our culture, that we almost never question it. It's the myth of the brilliant, straight-A student, the one with perfect test scores, who effortlessly glides from a top university into a life of success and wealth. We've been told this story our whole lives. Good grades equal success. A high IQ is the golden ticket. But what if I told you that for the vast majority of self-made millionaires, that story is pure fiction? When Stanley surveyed hundreds of millionaires, he asked them about their school days. The results were stunning. The average undergraduate grade point average for these incredibly successful people was just 2.92 out of 4.0. Not bad, but hardly the stuff of academic legends. What about their SAT scores? The average was 1,190. Again, solid but not nearly high enough to get into the most elite, competitive universities in the country. In fact, most millionaires did not attend top-rated colleges. And when asked to rank the factors that led to their success, attending a top-rated college and graduating at the top of my class were ranked near the very bottom of the list. Think about that. The very things our society holds up as the ultimate predictors of success, grades, test scores, school prestige, are considered almost irrelevant by the people who have actually won the game. This discovery fascinated Drive. Stanley. He found that a huge number of millionaires had stories of being underestimated. They were the ones told by a teacher, a counselor, or even a standardized test that they were average, not intellectually gifted, or not medical school material. One multimillionaire, a man with a PhD from a top university, told the story of his third-grade teacher, Sister Eileen, who divided the class into 3 groups. The smart kids sat in the front rows, the average kids in the middle, and the dumb kids in the back. This man, who now owns 3 businesses, was put in the back row. He jokes today, "I must have been the smartest kid in the dumb row." Another incredible example is Roberto Goizueta, the legendary CEO who transformed the Coca-Cola Company into a global powerhouse. When he was in college, his grades were so unremarkable that one of his own professors later said he never would have expected him to achieve such incredible success. So, this opens up a fascinating question. If it's not a genius-level IQ or a diploma from a prestigious university, what is the secret? What are the real foundation stones of financial success? When Drive. Stanley put this question to his 733 millionaires, asking them to rate 30 different success factors, their answers were a direct contradiction to everything we're taught to believe. The top 5 factors, the absolute cornerstones of the millionaire mind, were not what you'd expect. Number 1, being honest with all people. Integrity. Number 2, being well-disciplined. Self-control. Number 3, getting along with people. Social skills. Number 4, having a supportive spouse. And number 5, working harder than most people. Let that sink in. These are not secret formulas. They are virtues. They are character traits. Where did having a high IQ or superior intellect rank? It came in at number 21. And what about being lucky? It was near the very bottom, at number 27. These millionaires didn't win a lottery. They built their success, brick by brick, on a foundation of character. Let's look at that first one, integrity. For millionaires, this isn't a suggestion. It's a non-negotiable rule of life. They see it as a pass/fail course. You can't get a C in honesty and still succeed in the long run. One successful real estate manager, John Barry, shared a lesson his father taught him: never tell one lie. If you tell one lie, you'll have to tell 15 more to cover it up, and each of those 15 requires 15 more. The math gets out of control. It is simply a more productive use of your time, energy, and intelligence to always tell the truth. This idea of integrity is so powerful because it builds the one currency that truly matters in business and in life: trust. Without it, you can't build a team, you can't retain customers, and you certainly can't build a lasting partnership with a spouse. Which brings us to the social side of success. Getting along with people was ranked number 3. This might sound soft, but it's the engine of all great enterprises. To illustrate this, Drive. Stanley shares a wonderful story about the legendary football coach, Paul Bear Bryant. A senior executive told him that on his first day as a freshman scholarship athlete at Alabama, Coach Bryant gathered all the new players. These were the best high school players in the country, cocky and full of talent. And the very first thing the legendary coach said to them was, "Have you called your folks yet to thank them?" The players were stunned into silence. Coach Bryant then delivered the lesson that would shape their lives: no one ever got to this level without the help of others. Call your folks. Thank them. The message was profound. Your individual talent, no matter how great, is not enough. Success is a team sport. Whether it's the offensive line blocking for a running back or the key employee supporting a business owner, nobody reaches the highest peaks alone. The millionaires in drive. Stanley's study understood this deeply. They weren't lone wolves, they were leaders who knew how to attract, motivate, and appreciate other people. This is a skill, and it's a skill that far outweighs raw intellect. In fact, when you look at the data, business owners and corporate executives rated getting along with people as significantly more important than attorneys and physicians did. Why? Because their success is almost entirely dependent on their ability to build and lead a team. This leads us to one of the most powerful and hopeful themes in the Millionaire Mind, the idea of the comeback kid. So many millionaires were not the stars in school. They were the ones who were overlooked, underestimated, or labeled as average. Instead of accepting that verdict, they developed a kind of mental armor. The criticism didn't crush them, it fueled them. Drive. Stanley found that nearly half of all millionaires were influenced by learning to fight for your goals because someone labeled you as having average or less ability. More than half said they were influenced by never allowing poor grades to destroy your goals to achieve. Think of Dave Longaberger, founder of the famous basket company. He was held back 3 times in elementary school and didn't graduate high school until he was 21. Or Robert Lutz, the former president of Chrysler, who also graduated high school late, at age 22. These aren't stories of failure, they are stories of tenacity. These individuals learned a lesson that the so-called gifted students often miss, that hard work is more important than a high IQ, and that resilience in the face of criticism is a superpower. This brings us to the core of the millionaire mindset: courage. Almost all self-made millionaires possess it, because building wealth requires taking risks. And taking risks requires courage. Now, it's crucial to understand what drive Stanley means by risk. He's not talking about gambling. In fact, his research shows a strong negative correlation between wealth and playing the lottery. The more wealth a person has, the less likely they are to gamble. Decamillionaires are the least likely of all. They understand that gambling is a game with terrible odds where you have no control. Financial risk-taking, on the other hand, is a calculated venture. It's about seeing an opportunity and having the courage to act on it, knowing you can influence the outcome. The most fundamental form of this risk is the choice of vocation. A disproportionately high number of millionaires are self-employed business owners and entrepreneurs. They chose to bet on themselves. Most people think being an employee is the safe path. But millionaires see it differently. They believe the real risk is having a single source of income, a single employer who controls your destiny. Being self-employed means you are in control. The profits are yours, and there is no ceiling on what you can achieve. But how do they handle the fear? The fear of failure is real. Drive. Stanley found that millionaires don't lack fear. They have developed specific techniques to manage it. The number one method they use? Hard work and preparation. They bolster their courage by believing in themselves, by planning meticulously, by focusing on key issues, and by being incredibly well organized. They don't leap blindly, they build a parachute before they jump. One fascinating finding is the link between courage and religious faith. For nearly 4 in 10 millionaires, a strong religious faith is a key source of the courage to take financial risks. They believe they have a partner, a senior advisor, in God. This faith gives them a deep sense of confidence and purpose that allows them to push through uncertainty and fear. Truett Cathy, the founder of Chick-fil-A, perfectly embodied this, stating, "Our corporate goal is to glorify God. I see no conflict between good biblical principles and good business practices." This courage to be different, to bet on oneself, leads directly to what is perhaps the single most important decision a person can make on the path to wealth: the choice of vocation. Vocation, vocation, vocation. Drive. Stanley uses a brilliant analogy to explain this. He tells the story of two World War II fighter pilots. One was Major Eric Hartmann, known as the Ace of Aces, with a world record 352 aerial victories. The other was his mentor, a pilot named Paul Rossmann. Rossmann had suffered an arm injury that left him unable to engage in traditional dogfights, which relied on brute physical strength. He would lose every time. So, what did he do? He invented a new way to fight. Instead of raw power, he used his mind. He became a master of calculation, planning every single attack with meticulous detail. He would only engage when he was in the best possible position to win, using a method he called see and decide prior to firing. He substituted creative intelligence for physical perfection. This is exactly what most self-made millionaires do. They realize early on that they might not be the smartest in an analytical sense. They don't have perfect SAT scores. So they decide not to compete in the macho dogfight environments where superior analytical intelligence is the only requirement to win, like trying to become the top partner at a prestigious law firm filled with Ivy League graduates. Instead, they use their creative intelligence. They find an economic opportunity that others have ignored. They select a vocation that they love, one that has few competitors but generates high profits. The really brilliant millionaires aren't the ones with the highest IQs, they're the ones who were creative enough to choose the perfect battlefield. Drive. Stanley concludes that if you make this one major decision correctly, you can win, and win big. Selecting a vocation is like building a house. If your foundation is on swampland, it doesn't matter how beautiful the house is, it will eventually sink. But if your foundation is on bedrock, it will withstand any storm. Consider the story of Mr. Richard. He grew up in an upper-middle-class home and went to prep school. By all accounts, he should have followed a traditional path. But today, he owns and operates a highly profitable junkyard in the Deep South, specializing in used parts for 18-wheeler trucks. How did he get there? While working for a truck manufacturer, he was asked to sell a wrecked truck to a junk dealer for $500. A few weeks later, his company needed a used engine, and they went back to that same dealer. The dealer sold them back the engine from that very same truck for $500, and still had the transmission, the tires, the doors, and everything else left to sell. A light bulb went on in Mr. Richard's head. He saw an opportunity everyone else had overlooked. He realized who was making the real money. He quit his job and started his own business. Today, he's a multi-millionaire who absolutely loves what he does. He found his niche. Or think of Donald Sine. He calls himself a dumpster man. He buys the seconds and odd lot cloth that textile mills are throwing away. What does he do with it? He built a business manufacturing underwear for prisons and gun cleaning patches for the military. He says, "At first I was laughed at. But this was money from heaven. I had an endless supply." He saw a market where no one else was looking. This is the power of creative intelligence. It's the ability to think differently from the crowd. But finding that perfect vocation isn't just a flash of insight, it's often a long journey. Look at Dan R., a man who failed at 9 different sales jobs. He was fired or asked to resign again and again because he couldn't meet his quotas. He was depressed, feeling like a failure. But he kept searching, intuitively knowing that his skills didn't match the jobs he was taking. His previous jobs demanded a sales commando who just knocked on doors. But Dan was a thinker, a strategist. Finally, in his 10th job, selling custom-designed handheld computers, he found the perfect fit. His role required market planning, understanding customer needs, and preparing detailed proposals. It was a consultant's role disguised as a sales job. In 1 year, after 5 years of cultivating a single client, Home Depot, he closed a $35 million contract. His commission check for that one deal was over $1 million. It took him 17 years of searching, but he finally found the bedrock for his foundation. Now, once you've chosen that path, there is another decision that is almost as critical: the choice of a spouse. The data is overwhelming. 92% of the millionaires in Drive Stanley survey are married, and they have a divorce rate that is less than one-third that of non-millionaire couples. A long, stable marriage is one of the great accelerators of wealth accumulation. Why? There are economies of scale, of course. But more importantly, the right partner is a force multiplier. 8 out of 10 millionaires stated that having a supportive spouse was a key factor in their economic success. But what are they looking for in a partner? It's not wealth or high income potential, at least not for the men. When asked what qualities contributed to their successful marriage, both men and women gave the same top 5 answers: honest, responsible, loving, capable, and supportive. And what initially attracted them to their spouse? Again, the answers were about character, not cash. The top 5 were intelligent, sincere, cheerful, reliable, and affectionate. These millionaires, even as young people, had an uncanny ability to judge character. They weren't blinded by physical attractiveness or the illusion of wealth. They were looking for a life partner, someone who shared their values and would be there through thick and thin. Paulette Rakestraw, founder of a successful direct mail business, met her husband when she was a 21-year-old divorced mother building a business out of her apartment. She wasn't looking for a rich guy. She was drawn to his caring demeanor and the way he treated her daughter. He was a saver, she was a risk-taker. He would rein her in, she would push him along. They were a team. Their different personalities complemented each other, creating a powerful partnership. This is the common story. The Millionaire Mind understands that marriage is the most important business partnership you will ever form. And you don't form a partnership with someone you don't trust, or someone who doesn't share your vision for the future. This team-based approach extends to how they run their homes. Drive. Stanley found that millionaires operate what he calls economically productive households. This is where the stereotype of the big spending millionaire completely falls apart. Would you believe that the average millionaire household, with a net worth of over $9 million and an income of nearly $750,000, runs its home with the efficiency of a well-managed business? Consider this: 70% of millionaires regularly have their shoes resoled and repaired. Nearly half have their furniture reupholstered or refinished instead of buying new. 71% develop a detailed shopping list before going to the grocery store. And nearly half buy their household supplies in bulk at warehouse stores like Costco. To an outsider, this might seem contradictory. Why would someone who can afford anything clip coupons? The answer is simple: they think differently. They are not focused on first cost, they are focused on life cycle cost. They understand that a $300 pair of high-quality shoes that can be resold for 10 years is actually cheaper per wearing than a $65 pair of trendy sneakers that fall apart in 6 months. They understand that time is money. A detailed shopping list not only saves money on impulse buys, it drastically reduces time spent in the store, time that can be reallocated to family, friends, or planning their next investment. This mindset is perfectly captured by their approach to their largest purchase, their home. The typical millionaire lives in a home currently worth about $1.4 million. But here's the fascinating part: they purchased that home, on average, 12 years ago, for around $560,000. And the median year of construction for their homes is 1958. They don't buy flashy new mansions in trendy subdivisions. They buy quality homes in old, well-established, upper-middle-class neighborhoods. Why? Because these neighborhoods have a proven track record. The values are stable, the neighbors are often other economically productive people, and importantly, the public schools are excellent. They see sending their 3 children to high-quality public schools as saving hundreds of thousands of dollars in private school tuition, a direct contribution to their net worth. And how do they buy these homes? Aggressively. They are patient. They are willing to walk away from any deal. They never pay the initial asking price. And about 1 in 4 actively search for bargains, homes that are part of a foreclosure, a divorce settlement, or an estate sale. They buy when others are fearful and selling, and they sell when others are euphoric and buying. One of the most revealing case studies is the contrast between Mr. Green, the balance sheet affluent millionaire, and Mr. Blue, the income statement affluent big earner. Mr. Green, the true millionaire, took 13 out of 14 possible actions to get the best deal on his home. He shopped for months, researched prices, and negotiated aggressively. Mr. Blue, who has a big income but little net worth, took only 4. He was impatient, bought a home he couldn't easily afford, and paid a premium because he was in a rush to show off his success. Mr. Green's home has tripled in value. Mr. Blue is trapped by his mortgage. This brings us, finally, to the lifestyle of a millionaire. If you've been listening closely, you've probably already guessed that it's not what the movies portray. Drive. Stanley calls the typical millionaire a cheap date. When he asked them to keep a diary of their activities, the things they did most often were not expensive. Topping the list for a 30-day period were socializing with children and grandchildren, and entertaining close friends. Planning investments was number 3. What about expensive hobbies? Playing golf came in at number 13. What about luxury shopping? Shopping at Saks Fifth Avenue was number 20, behind eating at McDonald's and shopping at Walmart. Their lives are not centered around consumption. They are centered around family, friends, and activities that are either free or contribute to their growth, visiting a museum, engaging in community activities, or planning their financial future. There's a powerful lesson here. For many, the best things in life truly are free, or at least reasonably priced. Their lifestyle is not a substitute for wealth building, it's a complement to it. Many of their activities, serving on charity boards, playing golf, socializing with friends, bring them into contact with people who become clients, partners, or suppliers. Their life is a reflection of their mind, balanced, disciplined, and focused on what truly matters. They have discovered that you cannot enjoy life if you are addicted to consumption. They have discovered that financial independence is the ultimate freedom. And they have discovered that the path to that freedom is not paved with genius or luck, but with the quiet, consistent application of timeless virtues. They have the millionaire mind. Commentary. As we come to the end of our journey through the Millionaire Mind, it's worth pausing to reflect on the most powerful lesson this book offers. It's a lesson that goes far beyond money. For me, the single most profound idea in Drive. Stanley's work is the radical sense of hope it provides. In a world that seems obsessed with celebrating innate talent, genius, and overnight success, this book is a quiet, powerful rebuttal. It tells us that the foundation of extraordinary achievement is built not on gifts you are born with, but on virtues you can choose to cultivate. Think about it. The number 1 success factor is integrity. That's a choice. Number 2 is discipline. That's a choice. Number 3 is getting along with people. That is a skill you can learn and a choice you can make every day. The message is liberating. Your future is not predetermined by your report card, your IQ score, or the family you were born into. It is determined by your character. This book serves as a powerful reminder that the American dream, for all its complexities, is still alive for those who approach it with the right mindset. It's not about finding a get-rich-quick scheme, it's about the patient, methodical, and often unglamorous work of building a life of substance. The millionaires in this book didn't stumble into wealth. They built it, day by day, through disciplined habits, courageous decisions, and a deep understanding of what truly holds value. They teach us that true wealth isn't just about the number in your bank account. It's about freedom. The freedom from debt. The freedom to control your own time. The freedom to walk away from a deal, a job, or a situation that doesn't align with your values. And the freedom to build a life that is balanced, joyful, and rich in relationships. So, how can you start applying the principles of the Millionaire Mind in your own life, starting today? Here are 3 simple actions you can take. First, redefine how you measure success. For 1 week, stop thinking about grades or external validation. Instead, keep a small journal and at the end of each day, ask yourself, was I honest today? Was I disciplined in the things that matter? Did I treat people well? Start building the foundation of character, because as this book proves, everything else is built on top of it. Second, become a collector of knowledge in one specific area that fascinates you. Just like Joe Smith in the hardware business or Mr. Richard in the junkyard, find a niche. It doesn't have to be a business idea yet. Just pick a topic, it could be anything from sustainable farming to vintage watches, and decide to become the most knowledgeable person you know on that subject. Read everything you can. Talk to experts. As you collect knowledge, you will begin to see opportunities that are invisible to everyone else. Third, practice life cycle cost thinking on one purchase this month. Whether it's a pair of shoes, a kitchen appliance, or even a piece of software, resist the urge to just buy the cheapest option. Instead, ask yourself, what is the true cost over the long term? Which option is built to last? Which one will save me time and frustration down the road? This simple shift in thinking, from short-term price to long-term value, is a cornerstone of the Millionaire Mind. In the end, the Millionaire Mind is about so much more than becoming a millionaire. It's a blueprint for a life of purpose, resilience, and quiet confidence. It teaches us that the most valuable assets we can ever possess are not stocks or real estate, but integrity, discipline, and the courage to think differently from the crowd. That was a deep dive into the Millionaire Mind by Thomas J. Stanley. We've journeyed through the core ideas today, but I'll be completely honest with you, a summary can only ever be a map. The real treasure is found when you walk the path yourself. The true magic happens in the quiet moments of reading, when a particular story or a simple phrase connects with you in a way you didn't expect. This summary is your guide to help you decide if this book deserves your time. If anything we've talked about today has sparked something in you, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning information, it's an experience that can genuinely change the way you see yourself, your work, and your life. The link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable and want to keep exploring the wisdom found in the world's most impactful books, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and growing together.